3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we are going down Trainer Road. We're almost to Jets, but we've got to finish up with the Russians, the Ruskies. And today we are talking about the Yakolev, the Yak-7. I've never been able to, what an unglamorous name for an airplane. Jason, the Yak. Maybe it's better in Russian. I don't know. But first, I have to talk about Nemo stuck to my head. It's probably going to get us a copyright strike. But Nemo will have to swim off stream. Gosh, Nemo has a mind of his own, man. He just took off. Now, I'm going to use one of the principal adversaries of the Yak fighters. This is a ME-109. This is an E1 version, which was the Yak series primary opponent during the war. I'll go up and throw a plan view up. Greg can throw a plan view up of the Yak. Now, the interesting thing about the Russians, and this may be because the Europeans were completely on the continent, were overrun, so they didn't have the challenge. But the only other country that I can say was under constant attack while they were developing aircraft, and correct me if you disagree, and I'm not talking about the United States because they hadn't gone in the war yet when this aircraft first flew, but that would be the British. The British were trying to develop aircraft, field all types of stuff, and as the war went on, it literally came to their doorstep. The Russians had the same problem. The Yak, the 7 first flew in 1940. It was a derivative of the Yak-1 fighter. Now, this one served after the war, so for you aficionados out there, this one had a NATO code name, and that was the Mark. Now, this aircraft was originally developed as a 2-seat trainer. Performance was so good, top speed was 308 miles an hour, that the Russians went, well, hey, literally the Germans were pouring them in on them at this point. They went ahead and made modifications and actually turned into a fighter. It flew fairly well against its German counterparts, and they used it as a fighter, as a courier, basically as a utility aircraft, but it was armed, and the Russians were only trying to slow the Germans down. So trainers, anything that was flying was getting thrown into the line and was used in offensive capability. The Yak was a little bit different because, as I said, it was fairly quick. The only thing that it really couldn't do was it did not climb as well as the ME-109. Now, this aircraft had there's a lot of variants here, and I'm not going to cover them, but this aircraft had a very high build rate at 6,399. So this makes our list because it was fairly prolific, but it was used in an offensive role as well. So let me go ahead and stick this on my spindle here. It's the German aircraft. Now, the folks I want to salute today are, and I know this is kind of off the beaten path, but we're way down in the weeds, Jason, and that is the Russian air crews and the folks who maintained, we call them maintainers, the folks that maintained this aircraft. You have to remember, Russians' skill level was fairly low. There were a lot of farm kids and kids from the rural areas being thrown in to the fight. And these aircraft were flying many times from unimproved fields. And so there was a big challenge keeping these aircraft maintained. Pilots, you're going up against the cream of the crop of the German Air Force. Many of those pilots, German pilots, had already seen combat in other areas, so they were seasoned pilots. Yet the Russians suffered, as much has been made about the Russians, roughly 20 million people lost in the war, both combatants and civilians. Huge loss of life, not unlike what we're seeing, sadly, with their adventure into Ukraine, which we hope ends relatively soon. But you can see echoes of World War II in that war, and that they did not care, and they do not care about losses. And the whole idea is to just slow the enemy down at any cost. World War II was no different. They hated the Germans, and the Germans weren't fond of them. So this was a brutal, brutal war. But those maintainers, the people that kept the aircraft in the air, and the pilots, eventually the Russians would wrestle air superiority. Their concept of flying close to the front never wavered. They were always fairly close. Range was not an issue for them like it was with the Americans flying out of those bases for long-range fighters. So a lot of these types of aircraft flew close support or close air cover. So with those maintainers, we're going to go ahead and salute them today with Brainwash. Oh, that's a scary drink to be using when we're talking about the Russians. This is a carbonated drink, helps relieve extreme mental overload. Jason, you could use this. A chance for a change of mind. This has got all little things. Get rid of all the garbage they've been dumping in your mind. Oh boy, this is exciting. I don't know where you... This is one of those I worry about. Jason was driving out in the Mojave and found this very obscure liquor store that had stuff. Greg would do that all the time. I never knew what Greg... It has a California cash refund, so let's see. And by the way, you probably can't see it on camera, but this is like blood red. It is almost a transfusion red color. We'll go ahead and pop that. Oh, a little bit of a fizz, so we know it's carbonated. And to all of you Russian maintainers and pilots and aircrew, I salute you. Oh my God, that's bad. Jason is just cracking up. Oh, that is awful. Okay, this is one of those where I'm taking one for the team here. Oh. That was a minimum sip there, Jason. That is so bad. Oh, my eyes are watering. That thing is so terrible. Definitely, if you drink that, you have brainwash. So, as the war went on, the aircraft, the Yak-7 was produced with a retractable carriage and then also a fixed carriage, other variants. The idea behind it was the designers felt, well, for a trainer, it wouldn't sacrifice performance very much, and they could get some of the components out of it and speed up manufacture. Remember, the Russians are turning and burning, trying to get tanks, airplanes, everything out because it's going immediately into combat. So there were, and when I talk about a ton of variants, there were two-seat, there were single-seat. They were used as couriers, utility aircraft. At the end of the day, as the Russians' fortunes improved, they were completely superseded by other aircrafts, and then they went back basically to their training role. Now, at the end of the war, that they didn't end. They were fairly prolific, and so they were used, which is why they have a NATO code name. They were used by a lot of East Bloc countries. Again, they were so simple to maintain and so robust that they were very attractive to train air crews on because you could just beat the heck out of them. And then eventually they passed into history. You can find them in various museums. And in some cases, I actually read that there was one that's still flying in the United States, which would be kind of interesting. It was a modified Yak-7. So that would be very cool if that was happening. But let's say by 1948, 1949, they were headed into history because nobody wanted to train in tail draggers anymore. Why? We've talked about it before. Jets, and they were trying to train everybody on tricycle landing gear and ground handling. And that moves us out of the Yak-7. Now, if you have a little airplane aficionado at home, you need one of these. And this is a great coloring book, World War II airplanes. Even we did the German version of the Comet last week, the rocket plane. They're all in here. They're just fantastic. Go ahead and click on that link, and Jason will happily run down to the store and send you one that has not been colored in. We've had that problem with Jason. You know, he's coloring everything, but that's a extremely cool book. Now, if you came across us on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, we need your likes and your subscriptions. We only do, if you like one take aviation videos, Warbird videos, we do this one shot, we do a little take, and then we move on the airplanes. Go ahead and forward us to your friends and anybody who likes that kind of video, and we would be happy to get your subscription. If you want to leave us a comment, go ahead and leave us a comment. We'll respond back to you. Again, we also like those likes on Facebook and Instagram. We cannot do all of this without your support. So there's a contribution button in the description on this video. Please send us a few rubles when you get a chance. We could use it. We also have down there our education guides. If you got the little ones at home and maybe they color a little bit, you want to do some kind of cool experiment at home, you can download those education guides and use just maybe some of the teaching elements out of it in little segments. We'll do that, or teach the kids at home. There's a lot of really great stuff in there. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.